MO Podcast.
Hello and welcome all into the MO Podcast. And today we've got a special, let's say we've already recorded this one. It's the strange disappearance of Elisa Lam. But the audio was terrible on it, and with Netflix bringing out their 4-part documentary, we thought we'd re-release this kind of thing with better audio because the Netflix documentary is everything that we said.
We got ripped off, dude.
Yeah, so we're not bitter about it. To be honest with you, the Netflix it's a documentary, and like all Netflix documentaries, it's very in-depth, but it is everything that we kind of said. And one thing that I do want to stress is if you've seen it, we are not like them, quote marks, web sleuths on there. Granted, we do take the subject matter that we cover seriously, but I think we're never going to say this is the person that did it and try and out someone like they did.
Yeah. Oh, God, that poor guy.
They still didn't apologise. They had the platform there to do it. All three of the web sleuths had the platform there to do it, and not one of them said sorry, which I think is that was my biggest takeaway from it.
Yeah, that's been a massive bell end. I mean, that's pretty much ruined that guy's life.
Yeah, and he said he was struggling. He had problems. He had a mental break, and all because he stayed in the same hotel along with another 600 people because it's a 600-room hotel.
It wasn't even in the same year, though.
Exactly. He stayed at that hotel, and there was one video that was posted at around the time of her disappearance, and because he was a little bit different, he must have killed her.
Yeah.
He got hounded, and I would just, I don't speak for them, but I'd just apologise.
Definitely.
And I feel truly sorry for him. And what makes it worse is none of that they had the platform there. They could have spoke out and said something about it, but their silence was mystifying to me. They just kind of made it all about themselves. Yeah. But give this a listen, and then if you've not watched a Netflix series, give this a listen first, then watch Netflix series, and then tell us if you think we got it right, because we know we did. Yeah. But Netflix just ripped us off. So
basically, watch it, listen to our podcast first, and then watch it, and then go, yeah, I already knew that. Oh yeah, no, that one, we already know that one as well. Oh yeah, that's what Trey and Ant said. Oh, they were right, totally right. And then send Netflix an email and say, hey, you should give the MO Podcast a 4-part series.
Yes. Send your complaints, and we'll send our army of fans. I don't even know why I pluralised that. Yeah, we'll send our army of fan down to Netflix to right the wrongs that we have suffered.
She's pretty hardcore though, so wrongs would be righted. Yeah. I don't actually know what a 4-part series of the MO would be. I feel like it would be like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, just like following us around in our lives, like making toast, cuppers, grabbing a can of Stella out the fridge, and then like maybe he's reading a true crime book.
Okay, well, you're not really selling that, so I might edit that out just in case Netflix are listening. It would be awesome, Netflix, I promise you. I tell you, you've never seen a man sat in his underpants watching TV like you've seen me sit in my underpants watching TV. But yeah, anyway, give it a listen and tell us what you think. If you've seen the Netflix special, then let us know if you think we were along the right tracks. And bearing in mind, I was really, not that I'm not proud of the other episodes, but this was an episode which I'd say we both put a lot of research in. I mean, my Google search history has what does a body look like after 2 weeks in water. And so the FBI may be monitoring me for my...
Mate, they've been parked outside my drive for the last 8 weeks.
Well, that's it. Flowers by Irene. So we did do a lot of... We went really in depth on this one, and we came to the same conclusions as the documentary. So to be honest with you, I think we're justified in doing what we do and continuing what we're doing. So it was kind of a win for us. But like I said, the audio was terrible because I fluffed it, and now we've had it remastered.
Yeah.
It's not that we try to chase clout or anything, promise. But like and subscribe.
For real.
So anyway, I hope you all enjoy it. And just tell us what you think. Hello and welcome all into the MO podcast. You're here with me, Consummation San, and my lovely co-host.
Treya.
Okay.
I just felt like changing up a bit, you know.
Why not?
I just get bored like, Treya.
Fair enough. I'm just Consummation San. There we go. Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about the mysterious death of Elisa Lam. So this happened, this is one of the more recent cases that we've actually covered. And we are, personally, I'm going to try and deal with it quite sensitive because it was a young woman that died, and there's still people out there who are missing her and still want answers to it.
Definitely.
But it is a very strange set of circumstances that this happened in, and the place was very strange as well. So
definitely.
So we will stray into the abnormal.
Yes.
But the story is on February 19, 2013. Elisa Lam's body was found in a water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel in LA. Elisa was travelling the West Coast and had already been to San Diego. She travelled alone on buses and trains, and one of the reasons that her parents allowed her to go was that she had to check in by phone every day. This was just because I think they were very protective parents, but as well she did have a history of depression and some kind of mental illness that she was on medication for. So I think they just wanted her to check in so they knew she would be okay.
And it's a big deal traveling on your own when you're young. Like, if I was her age and I was, even if I lived in Scotland or something and I was traveling to London or something, my mum would be on my phone all day, every day. I mean, she'd be on my phone all day, every day now, and I'm 35. I think it's a big deal if you're on your own, completely alone, in what potentially is quite a dangerous, crime-ridden city, or that particular area she's staying in.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I feel quite bad now. I lived abroad for 8 years, and I don't think I rang my mum once.
Wow.
I sent text messages and stuff, but
on Mother's Day once a year.
Probably not on Mother's Day.
Did you forget Mother's Day? Okay, now, Aunt.
Hallmark rated that, right? Let's not get into Hallmark holidays, okay? We'll be here all day. So she was only 21 and she was young, she was travelling around, she was on her own. On the day of her checkout, which was the 31st of January, she failed to check in with her parents, and this is where her parents got worried and contacted the LAPD straight away. The police searched the hotel, but what's interesting is they only searched the hotel to the legal extent that they were allowed to do. Now, this is a quote from one of the officers that was on the scene, which basically means if the people in the hotel didn't give consent to them searching the room, they were not allowed to search the room. So this hotel that she was staying in, the Cecil, was in an area, as you mentioned there, it was near an area called Skid Row, which obviously, as you can
charming name.
Yeah, you can kind of understand by the name it wasn't the greatest place. There was 10,000 homeless people that lived in a 4-mile radius of the actual Cecil Hotel. In the 80s, Skid Row was it was basically a shanty town of its own, and it was tried to be forcibly removed by the police and the mayor, but homeless people's advocates and groups got involved and said, you're only going to displace them and put them somewhere else. There's not adequate housing in the city
for this to be done. So until adequate housing was built, which I don't even think to this day it has been built, Skid Row remained, and it still does remain today. So the hotel was actually known as kind of a transient hotel, and it had a lot of people there who were residents, so had long-term people staying there who may have been down on the luck, didn't have anywhere else to go. Maybe the government was paying for their hotels. Now, I'm not saying all transients are bad people, but just try to kind of build up the area and where she was staying and what kind of surrounded her in this area.
Elliot Ness would have had a field day.
I tell you what, he wouldn't have taken no homeless advocation. He would have just burnt it all down.
He would have.
Didn't care, did he? But so when she checked in, at first she was in a hostel-style room, which was, I think it was an 8-bedroom room, but she was actually changed to a single after the other people in the room complained about her odd behaviour. Now, I can't find what kind of odd behaviour she had, but if it's enough to make the management change your room in this area, it must have been a bit upsetting to the other people.
This is the thing that gets me, right? When they say odd behaviour, this is a group of people who didn't know Elisa. They weren't her friends. Essentially, they were complete strangers. Like, my brother-in-law is the kind of person who comes home with a car full of helium balloons, full to the brim of helium balloons, so you can't even really see him in the driver's seat. And when my sister says to him, "Why did you do that?" he goes, "I just felt like it." To me and the rest of the people who know him, that's like, "Oh, David, you crazy joker, you." But for people who didn't know him, that might constitute as, "Oh my God, this person is a bit of a nutter." Do you know what I mean? Because they didn't know her. What she was doing might have been perfectly normal for the people that knew her. She might have just been a bit of a crazy joker.
Exactly, 100%. And I mean, I've travelled quite a bit and stayed, well, I try not to stay in. To be honest with you, I try not to stay in hostel-style rooms because I was going to say I don't like other people's behaviour, but I just don't like other people.
I was actually gonna say, is it because the people normally are the ones that are asking for you to be moved rooms?
Probably with that. I kind of had bad gas, but but no, yeah. So what is normal to someone is odd to someone else, and especially when you're kind of traveling and you don't you have nowhere to lock your valuables. If all these people knew each other and she was the odd one out, I can see how they wouldn't want her in their clique kind of thing. And especially with people who travel a lot, they kind of get into a traveller's mindset.
Yeah.
From what I believe, this is her first big travel kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't think she just wanted to go and see places. She was more of a tourist than a traveller, if you kind of understand the difference between the two. So she moved rooms into a single. She was actually seen on the 31st of January buying books for family members, and she seemed very upbeat. She explained that she was looking forward to moving on to the next city, but she wasn't seen by any of the hotel staff on this day. So the police went in, they checked all the rooms they were legally allowed to. They actually took sniffer dogs in and checked as much as they could. They even checked the roof where she would later be found. They turned up nothing. So a week later, on the 6th of February, they started a flyer campaign in the neighbourhood, which was basically, have you seen this woman? She was staying here, and they plastered the flyers all around the neighbourhood. After nothing, on February the 15th, a video was released of her, and it's the only video that they had, which is very strange. I mean, we'll talk about the video in a little bit, but
is it the only CCTV they had in the whole hotel?
Yeah.
Surely they had one at front desk, seeing her walking in and out. It's a massive hotel, and they've got one video in an elevator.
And they've got one elevator.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. But so during this time that the video was released, hotel guests started to complain of low water pressure in the rooms, and the water that did come out, it had an odd taste to it. It ran a funny colour for a while and then started running clear. So they sent up a maintenance man to have a look at the tank, and this is where and how they discovered Elisa's body in the tank. She was naked and her clothes were in the tank next to her. Her room key and her watch were found with her, but her phone wasn't. The tank had to be drained and cut open to accommodate the equipment that was needed to remove her body, because the hole was that small that she had to climb into to get into this water tank. This for me, I don't understand how she got there in the first.
Yeah.
I mean, the video, we'll talk about the video. This video that was released on the 15th of February. Now, it's just under 4 minutes long. It's out there on the YouTube and the internet if you want to look at it, but I'll just kind of go over the bullet points of it. The first minute or so show Elisa as she enters the lift. For me, she goes into the lift, she presses some buttons on the lift, and then she kind of, it looks like she's playing hide and seek. It looks like very, I'm not going to say childish because that's the wrong word, but very kid behaviour, as if she's playing with a child.
Playful. Yeah.
Yeah, because the way she jumps out the first time and then looks both ways and then jumps back in, it doesn't look to me like she's panicked about anything. Like some people have said that she's hiding from someone. She looks like she's hiding from someone, but she doesn't look like she's in danger,
Yeah.
I'd say.
I still don't understand why she was pressing all the buttons for all the floors, though. If she was just hiding, why not just press the button that keeps the doors open? The one with the two arrows pointing in opposite directions.
Yeah.
That would be the best button to press.
Yeah. I mean, there is a theory, which I'll talk about, but it makes no sense.
I know which theory you're going to say.
Yeah. You've been on Reddit as well. So then she kind of shuffle jumps out onto the landing, and she stands next to the lift, and it looks like she's got her hands over her ears and she's facing someone.
Yeah.
Then she re-enters the lift, she presses more buttons, she exits, and then she does a lot of strange hand movements. Now, it's not like she's on ecstasy, because it's not. Some people have said she was on drugs that may be akin to ecstasy and something like that because of the hand movements, but it's not dancing movements. It's just swaying movements rather than anything else.
I thought it looked like she was like feeling for something that wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
Did you ever do that thing when you were a kid where you put your hands like out in front of you, side by side, and then somebody else pushes on your hands on the outside, and you've got to push against their hands, and then you can like feel a ball after after they've done it for like 20 seconds or something. If you move your hands in like a circular motion, it's like you can feel a sphere in front of your hands. It's like she was doing that. It was like she could feel something in front of her that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Or like she was pretending that there was something there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Charades, maybe.
Could be. For me, she's kind of. It looks like a very slowed down version of them inflatable men that you see outside car sales places.
Oh yeah, the wobbly ones with the hands.
Yeah, with the hands. The hands look like that, but a very slowed down version, and she's just doing it with her hands, not with her whole body.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know. But she does that for 20, 30 seconds, and then she walks off in the same direction that she got in the lift in. The interesting thing here is that the doors don't close for 3 minutes.
That's what got me as well, especially since she's pressed all the floor buttons as well, which would mean the doors would close fairly quickly. They would take her to at least one of the floors.
Yeah. And it's not like she stood in because they have the sensor.
Yeah.
It's not like she stood. I could only see at one point with the hand movements where she actually crosses that sensor.
Mm-hmm.
And the doors don't even attempt to close. It's not like they close and then she puts her hand in and it goes back. It's just stuck there.
Yeah.
After about 30 seconds that Elisa's out of shot, then the doors close and it goes down to all the floors she was pressing. Now, to me, it does look like it's been edited, this video, just because there's some strange movements. It looks like it's almost, but not quite seamlessly. There's just some little movements that you'd go, if you were looking at it, and I'm not saying I'm an expert in editing, but I tried to do some, and when it just looks like someone's trying to line up the edit and they've just missed it, or they've just gone over it a little bit too much, and it's not a professional edit. It just looks like something that's odd, and the timestamp is blurred out as well.
Yeah, that's a bit suspicious, isn't it?
Which is warning signs. And the video was recorded on the 1st of February. She was checking out on the 31st of February. That means she spent a whole 24 hours in this building.
In the hotel.
With this, where I've stayed at hotels before, and okay, I'm not saying they come and bang on your door if you're not out by 12 o'clock, but certainly if you're not out by 4, 5 o'clock, someone will come in. Mm-hmm. You will run into someone and say, what are you doing here? I thought you'd left.
Yeah.
And 24 hours, and there's only one video that she showed up on when she's not supposed to be in this hotel.
Yeah.
It's a very odd.
It's very suspicious.
Yeah, it's suspicious. It's not an odd video, it's just odd. The date's very odd, and the timestamp being blurred, and why she's still here. This is all very...
Yes.
I just don't know why.
I mean, up until she stayed at the Cecil Hotel, she had not shown any signs, absolutely zero signs of being any danger to herself or anybody else. She'd had no breakdowns. She was taking a medication. She was basically a normal, healthy girl. She was perfectly normal. She did have an online blog.
Yeah.
And so she posted to it regularly. So on the 21st of December, she mentioned her intention to travel. Then on the 28th of December, she mentioned that she lost her cell phone. This seems to be a regular thing with Elisa. She seems to lose her cell phones. Then by January the 9th, she stated that she was privatizing her Facebook because she's paranoid, and she was expressing feelings of depression and being low. By the 24th of January, she writes on her blog that she's enjoying herself. But she's not doing anything outside of a normal routine she would have done back at home. She's been to like the Sea Life Centre or Sea World, whatever you call it. But she did state, which I kind of picked up on, and I didn't know if like any other sources had picked up on this, but she wrote, I need to do some, I'm doing some more impulsive things that I wouldn't normally do back home, like tell a guy I just met I like him. I don't know if she was saying that hypothetically, or if she had met somebody, a stranger, who she kind of fell for and she was in a relationship with, because this could involve a third party who may or may not be suspicious. Mm. By the 27th of January, her friend who had loaned her a BlackBerry phone to replace the cell phone that she lost, Elisa lost the BlackBerry. That was all before she checked into the hotel. And then by the 31st, as you say, she was seen by the bookstore owner. She was happy. She was, enjoying herself. She was buying Christmas presents for her family to take back home with her. There was nothing suspicious found in her room. And it just...
Yeah.
There's no indication to me that, although the autopsy report does state that she hadn't taken the medication for her bipolar, I'm with you. I don't understand how she got into that water tank and ended up where she was.
Yeah.
From being a perfectly normal, happy young woman to ending up there, it does not make any sense to me at all. She has no previous history of being a danger to herself or anybody else.
No, she even the family said they didn't want to be that forthcoming about her mental health issues, but they actually said she wasn't suicidal. She did have these issues. She was on these tablets, but never once as she hinted at being suicidal or we've had to talk her down from anything. And I mean, although I know when you're in that position, you don't necessarily talk about it, but they'd be the first to know if she had an instance of this.
Yeah, they would notice a change in her behaviour anyway, wouldn't they? They're around her more often.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you mentioned the blog there as well. She also had a Tumblr account.
Yeah.
Which had 150 posts during February, but after February the 15th, it only had 6, and then there was 4 in March and 3 in April, which is there. I think there's a queue.
She scheduled the posts, yeah.
Yeah, so she could schedule the posts, but she was posting pretty regularly. I think there was 6 or 7 at least on the 15th. So it wasn't like there was a massive drop off up until the 15th. Every day there's 150 during February up until the 15th. So that's how often she was posting. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that they were all queued. 150 is a lot to queue up.
Yeah, I don't think
1, 2, 3, maybe 6, okay. When you see them, you go, oh, you know what, I'll put that there for that. But 150 in 15 days, what's that? That's 10 a day?
The thing is, some of them as well were like spur of the moment, impulsive, I feel this way. And from being like putting posts like that myself, that's not something that you schedule. That's something that you feel at the spur of the moment at that particular time, and you post it there and then, because you could I could write, I feel really upset today, you know, I'm struggling with this, that and the other, and then schedule it for a week's time, and then in a week's time think, you silly girl, I don't feel like that anymore. I'm on top of the world. I'm having a great time. I'm not going to post that because I don't feel like that. It's something you do on the spur of the moment.
Yeah, it's a different feeling, isn't it?
Of course
I mean,
it is,
a lot of them are quotes, and when you see a quote, I mean, maybe for me, but when I see a quote, I have to do it there and then, otherwise I'll forget it.
Of course.
And I think that that's what a lot of these posts are.
Yeah.
And the ones you queue are just like, oh, that's timeless kind of thing. You know, it's not going to change. I'm not going to change in that short a time.
It's like top 2020 fashion trends or something. That's the kind of thing you schedule.
Yeah.
You don't schedule something about your feelings. So I think, yeah, a lot of those posts were on the spur of the moment things from Elisa.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about this, but so the reason why she pressed all buttons in the elevator is because she was playing a game called the elevator game, which here in England is called the lift game. But
yes.
That's not the way you play it. You don't go in and press all the buttons at once.
You have to press them in a set order, don't you? And then when you get to each floor,
you start on the ground and then go up to 2 and then back to ground up to 4. Not that I've read into it, but
I also have.
Yeah.
She definitely wasn't doing that.
No, there's no way. She presses them all at once. So the only reason that you do that is because you're having a laugh, kind of thing. You're not doing it for a game, and certainly you're never going to get into a different dimension through a lift. I'm sorry, that's never going to happen.
I also think she was a smart girl. She wouldn't have even, I don't think that kind of thing would have entertained her interests in the slightest.
No, she wouldn't have been interested in stuff like that.
No,
Why would she try it now?
exactly.
This isn't the first stop on a tour. If she would have read about this and it was something she wanted to do, like do it at the first place,
Yeah.
and then and then it would have been done. But no, I'm not giving that any credence at all.
Same.
A for the fact that she's a sensible girl, and B is because it's utter bullshit.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Just for that.
Grade A fact. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna go into a different dimension just getting out of a lift.
No.
You're just gonna piss the people off who were trying to get into the lift.
Yes. I've been waiting on the 7th floor now for 40 fucking minutes.
Indeed, I could have taken the stairs, but I'm too lazy. But so as well, we'll I just want to talk about the autopsy report as well because this is interesting to me that the cause of death on the autopsy report, and this is online, you can actually read it, is accidental drowning. But this was changed 3 days before being published. So it was changed from an undetermined accident to accidental drowning. 3 days before being published.
Yeah.
I don't know what the intermittent time was by this being written up and being published. Should have done a bit more research on that. But the fact that it was changed, and you can actually see that there is an error on the paperwork. And
He's actually scribbled it out, hasn't he, the coroner?
Yeah. And you can tell it's been done after the fact. It's not been done in the flowing kind of... You can tell there's been a break.
Yeah.
There wasn't any water or fluid found in the lungs. And one of the stages of drowning is involuntary breathing. So when you're in water, you run out of air. It's not the asphyxiation that kills you. It's the water in your actual lungs. It kind of is asphyxiation, but you start taking in water. And no matter how long you've been in water, they should always be water in the lungs.
I have, I also thought this, but I was told that sometimes in drowning victims, that your airways actually lock up. So you don't actually drown of the water, you drown because you don't actually take a breath because your airways just lock up and you suffocate yourself. So in those rare cases, there won't be any water in your lungs, but I'm still not buying it.
But on that, is that dry drowning?
I don't know.
I think I read that, and I don't. Please, someone tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor, but I don't think that happens in water.
Yeah.
I think it's called dry drowning because you actually have drowning symptoms on land and just kind of choke or asphyxiate yourself. Not 100%. I could be talking out my ass. Probably am talking out my ass. I should have done more research into it, but thought I'd done loads on autopsy, but now you've thrown that at me.
Sorry. The thing is, though, on the autopsy report as well, it's got like accidental drowning brought on by, and they cite bipolar disorder as one of the reasons for the accidental drowning. How can that possibly be proved? How can they possibly say that bipolar disorder caused Elisa Lam's accidental death?
Yeah.
They've got one video.
I think they just, for this autopsy, they just it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, swims like a duck. And I think they just went, that's all the evidence I need.
It's a mother of all assumptions.
Exactly. And I haven't read an autopsy report, but just reading it just gives me itchy fever because the body showed signs of decomposition, but it wasn't a lot. And if you're saying this body has been in 19 days in water for 19 days, Body starts showing signs of decomposition 4 days on land and 8 days at sea. After 20 days, it's highly decomposed. From what I've found out, and they've not done tests, like they've not thrown people into the water, but on drowning victims where ships have sank and after a certain amount of days they've pulled them out and they've kind of looked at how bad. For what they were saying, it doesn't seem like it's 19 days worth of decomposition.
No.
And the skin separation was evident, but was there enough of it to warrant 19 days? It's nearly 3 weeks being submerged in water.
It's a long time.
And there's the only drugs that were found in the toxicology report were her prescription drugs, but there wasn't actually enough blood preserved to do a thorough toxicology report. So they could find her prescription drugs, but not any other drugs.
Yeah. They also couldn't find one of her prescription drugs, which was the drug she was using. They had the antidepressants were in there, but the medication she was taking for her bipolar disorder wasn't found on the toxicology report, which, again, it could be because there wasn't a big enough sample. Maybe she'd forgot how long it takes for those tablets to get through your system and be flushed out. I don't know. So it's possible maybe she'd forgot that day. Maybe she forgot a few days before. It's hard to tell, really.
Yeah. There was also sand particles found on her clothes and in the fold of her clothes. Now, she is in LA.
She could have gone to the beach.
Yeah, she's been to San Diego, which is deserty from what I've seen on Anchorman. It's my only reference to it. San Diego. So I think that was just picked up of her natural environment. I don't think there's much that you can see. But there was a dark brown fluid found in her chest cavity between her lungs and her chest cavity. Now, 200 cc's on the left and 300 cc's on the right. I had to look it up, but cc means cubic centimetres. So that's like half a pint or a full pint of this brown fluid in a chest cavity. What I also found, right, and this is where I went, I'm going to play doctor now, but not in the good way, in the
the operation, the game sense.
Yeah, but I meant when you're kids.
Are you?
But
okay.
then you just anyway.
Sorry.
But just in a research way. But so. What that actually can mean, brown fluid in the chest cavity, can be a sign of high iodine in the body. And I thought, this is going to be good. But it's not, because it just means like you've got a bigger chance of having thyroid cancer. It's because your pituitary gland starts producing it more. But what is interesting, it can also be an allergen. So if you have too much iodine in your body, you can have anaphylactic shock. So the symptoms of anaphylactic shock are lightheadedness, confusion, and an altered state of consciousness. So I am clutching at straws with that, but it could explain what if a third party wasn't involved, it could explain her behaviour in the lift, that she was confused, she was in an altered state of consciousness. It could have all the symptoms of like bipolar, her not taking her meds or her being like on ecstasy or something like that. It could look towards that, but she could be having an anaphylactic shock with it.
Indeed, but how did she get so much iodine inside her?
Exactly. See, now, it's a natural occurring thing within your body. So your pituitary gland does produce it and you do have iodine in your body. But there's nothing to say that someone's going to like inject her with iodine and just go, yeah, okay.
Would that not show up on the autopsy, though?
It just says a brown fluid, and so pleural fluid accumulation, which is where this fluid was found, can be associated with drowning, but data has also been presented on the flip side of it. So there's not, it can be, but it can't be as well in the same kind of thing. So it could just be that I've seen that and gone, that could just be like clutching at straws and going, oh, I've seen that, so it's the only explanation for it. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, never read an autopsy report, but for me, there's no language in the autopsy report. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be any language, but if a policeman is reading it, I'm not saying policemen are all a bit boo, but if a policeman's reading it, shouldn't the language be a bit more subtle?
It needs to be readable by somebody who isn't medically educated.
So for me, I'd expect to see like frothy fluid in the airways, as is consistent with drowning.
Yeah.
Or just something that, like you say, not like me picking this up off the internet and going, but someone that's not as, like a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because if it's accidental drowning, then there's a case for suing the hotel or whatever. So someone needs to be able to read this who's not fluent in doctorish. So
Yes.
But I'd assume that if they went with, well, this is drowning straight from the off, then they'd look to add that language in straight away.
Yeah.
Rather than just go with the vagueism of it.
But also, if it was anaphylactic shock brought on by her body producing too much iodine, surely the amount of the brown fluid that was found in her lungs, surely that would be enough to test to go, this is iodine. It's possible she had an anaphylactic shock.
Yeah.
You would think they would rule it out at least.
I'd think that, but nothing is like concrete in this. Nothing's been ruled out or ruled in from what I can see. Obviously, I'll probably get ripped apart and go, you know nothing, which I'm not claiming to know anything, but it's just there's too many. Her lungs as well. Lungs weigh around about 1 kilo. Granted, she was only 5'2", but her lungs weighed 600 grams. If you drowned and take in water, even if there's no water there, your lungs have absorbed the water, therefore they're going to be heavier.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd expect them. This is normal lungs, like no one that's drowned or anything. They weigh 1 kilo. So hers weighed 600 grams. So surely, even though she was small, you'd think they'd be up around about 1 kilo, 800 grams or 900 grams or something like that. If she drowned and they'd absorbed the water and stuff like that. I just think they rushed to a conclusion far too quickly.
They did. And then you've got, of course, the flip side of things where they say, so one side is that she hadn't taken her medication, she was kind of hallucinating, she was confused, she climbed up into this water tank and she climbed inside and she drowned. And then there's the people that say the lid was too heavy, blah, blah, blah. So I looked into, this is my Google search history, it's so interesting, water tanks and the dimensions and weights and things like that. Oh,
wow.
God. Honestly, the FBI and the Russians will have a field day looking at my Google history.
Your Saturday nights must be wild.
Oh, honestly, the party doesn't start until I get there. So anyway, the lids are actually fairly light but they're about 60 pounds and they're on a hinge which takes half of the weight. So 30 pounds is not a heavy lid to lift. Anybody quite easily could open that lid. It was not a heavy lid. It was not too much for one person. It wouldn't have been too much for an 8-year-old, never mind an adult. It was quite easy to open that lid. The issue that how did she get up there? Apparently, when it was investigated later, 2 Chinese men went in and they recorded a video, and there was just a ladder left by like the water tank on the roof. And so they're saying that she easily could have climbed a ladder. I don't know whether that ladder was left there from the investigation or whether it's always there. Maybe she could have climbed the ladder and opened the lid. Maybe she was in a state of confusion. She was hallucinating. But when the LAPD took their sniffer dogs in, the sniffer dogs tracked her scent all the way down the corridor to a window that, albeit it was a bit of a risk, you'd have to be a bit Assassin's Creed, shimmying along a ledge, you could get to the roof via this window. And the sniffer dogs traced her scent up to this window, and then it vanished. So it's possible she could have got to the roof via the window. She could have climbed out the window, but when you're in a state of confusion and hallucination, are you really going to be coherent enough to shimmy across a ledge that basically means you would plummet to your death if you fell?
Yeah, this is it for me. It's one or the other. She's either confused, doesn't know what she's doing, or she's very coherent and knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to open the lift, it wouldn't take a lot, but to close it again?
Yeah, that's true.
Because she's now in the water, and the water tanks aren't full. They've still got a little bit of leeway on them.
Yes. Yeah.
So she's in there. She's only 5'2", so she's a smaller person anyway. So to get in the water, then lean up and pull it down.
Yeah.
Why is there a handle? Is there a handle on the inside of this lid? And if so, why?
Unless maybe she just lifted it up a little bit, climbed in, and then it just kind of dropped shut, like she didn't flip it open completely.
True, that could be the case. But then, why were her clothes found next to her?
Yeah.
Why? So she's either gone through all this, shimmied across the ledge, climbed up, fully clothed, got up there, taken her clothes off, got in, but took her clothes with her. Or she's done this naked from the start and kept her clothes with her.
Which is very bizarre.
I don't understand. And as well, if she didn't do the shimmying across the ledge, she would have had to go through a fire door, which apparently would have had an alarm on it, which would have alerted the front desk, but it was so loud that the top 2 floors would have heard it as well. So, it's just too confusing, this one. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the other world, let's say. Richard Ramirez lived there when he was on his killing spree. He was the Night Stalker. We'll probably talk about him at some point because, he's a
right one.
Tell you. And it has been said that when she's at the lift and the video you see, she was actually talking to his ghost. But, I mean, he only lived there for 6 months. Do you know, where does your ghost, go? Does you go?
Yeah.
When you die, does your ghost travel around? Because I've lived in a lot of places.
Does it go back to the place where you loved the most? Did he love the shithole that was the Cecil Hotel?
I mean, if he did, then I can understand why he did what he did. But that was the best time in his life when he was at that, just living down the road from Skid Row. Then
he needs to get out more.
Yeah.
I mean, the hotel did have a history of suicides and murder and things like that. And actually, it was the last place that Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, was seen as well before they found her horribly mutilated corpse.
Yeah.
So there is a whole possession, ghosts, suicide.
I mean, to be honest with you as well, there was 7 murder, suicide, accidental deaths in a 9-year period in the 30s there. So there's been 16, I think 16 overall in the hotel's history.
Which is not a lot for how old the hotel is, to be fair.
Of course, yeah, of course. I think it's just that it's so entwined with Elizabeth Shaw, the Black Dahlia, and you've got Richard Ramirez there. Jack Unterweger also stayed there.
Yeah.
And we'll probably cover him because this is why liberals should not get involved with cases. I mean, he wrote a book, let him out, he's a good boy. No, he's not. No, he's not. There was actually a Pauline Otten who jumped from a 9th floor window and landed on a pedestrian.
Oh, that is wrong place, wrong time, unfortunate.
Yeah, the thing is as well, she landed on George Gianni.
Did she survive?
No. They thought they jumped out together.
Oh, God.
And the way they worked it out was because George still had his hands in his pockets and his shoes on. And they went, no, he's been landed on. Because apparently when you jump out that high, your shoes pop off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you wouldn't really jump out of a hotel window with your hands in your pockets either, unless you're proper cool. I mean,
yeah.
You may as well be smoking a cigarette and wearing, like, Ray-Bans if you're doing that.
Also, I guess it depends on what shoes you're wearing. Be damned hard. I mean, I've been on the Nemesis in my Converse. They are hella not coming off.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But as well, yeah. I mean, and as horrible, this just sums up how bad the Cecil was. It was featured in U2's The Streets Have No Name video. It's actually a backdrop of it. And
it was a horrible, horrible place. I think it has actually been it's renamed now, isn't it? It's like Stay On something or other.
They're actually, yeah, it was renamed, I think, in 2015, but it's actually closed at the moment and will be open at some point next year after they're having a complete redo of it.
I should think so.
Because when it changed hands previously, I think it was the Stay On Main.
Yes, that's what I was looking for, yeah.
That they literally just gave it a lick of paint. They didn't do anything else to it. And I think they only gave, like, Pacific areas a lick of paint.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really do anything. But now it's actually closed. You can't even book in to it. And it will be open at some point next year. I think it's been closed for the past 2 years, to be honest with you. That's how much work that they're kind of doing on it.
That's the thing with hotels, though, that are quite infamous, like this one is. If you walk into a hotel and it looks a bit grotty and the skirting boards haven't seen a duster in like ever, and you just think, oh God, I can understand why people threw themselves out the window in this place. And it just reeks of conspiracy and suicide and stuff. Whereas if you walk into, you know, like the Hilton or something, you're like, oh, nobody would ever kill themselves in here. They've got a spa kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that is the difference as well, because it is what it is, and because it's got the reputation of what it is. I think people, when something happens, people want to read a lot more than what has actually happened into it. I'm not saying that there's nothing untoward going on here, but I just think when you've got the history behind it, it's like if you stay in a 5-star all-inclusive hotel, the first thing it's not the first thing that crosses your mind. Oh, how many people have died here?
Yeah.
Well, depends the kind of person you are. But
I still always check under the mattress, even in a travel lodge, just in case, because I've heard that urban legend as well. But the thing is, it's a hotel that size. Probably all the hotels in the entire city have had some form of suicide or murder or nefarious going ons. There's hundreds of people staying in it. Do you know what I mean? There's no hotel in an area that is a bit notorious that has a squeaky clean history. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it at all.
No, of course. I mean, especially with this one, it was because it was built in 1924. It did quite well, but then suffered due to the Great Depression. Picked up in the 40s, but then because of the war, by the time the 50s came around, it was suffering, and this is how it became the reputation of being a transient hotel. And then Skid Row, just down the road from it, picked up with people coming back from the soldiers coming back from the Second World War who were destitute, and the government turned their back on them, kind of thing, and this is where they lived. And then in the 70s and the 80s, it happened the same, or the 60s and the 70s, should I say, it happened the same with the Vietnam vets that came back into the country. It was just, Skid Row was a known place, and with this being so near to Skid Row, it kind of carried that reputation over.
Yeah.
I think for me, what is interesting is that in February 2017, it was actually deemed a historical and cultural monument due to its representation of early 20th century American hotels. Now, I don't really think that this has anything to do with anything, but when you kind of take it all together, if you're looking at a historical monument, how slapdash the autopsy was, how limited the people at the hotel have been in coming forward with the video. You've only got one video of her. Mm-hmm. You've not noticed that she weren't supposed to be there for 24 hours. I just think it's a little bit suspect. There was only certain rooms that they were allowed to search. I think a lot of things, like you say, I think maybe she was a little bit confident. She met someone and she decided to stay another day, but not in her room, maybe with them, and then something happened and she ended up in the water tank.
Yeah. I know her parents, they are of the agreement that she drowned. It was an accidental drowning because of her mental health issues. But I just think, for me and the person I do the research with, we are of the belief that the only person who had access to the roof, or the only persons who had access to the roof, was somebody who worked in the hotel, and that there is more to this than meets the eye, and that somebody in that hotel, a hotel worker, knows something about what really happened, and it wasn't an accidental drowning. She wasn't alone. There was somebody with her, and it really points in the directions of a hotel staff member.
Yeah, I'd have to 100% agree with you on that. I think that with the way the hotel works, and from me, I've worked in the hotel industry, if you're working there and you're not local, you get given a room to stay in.
Yeah.
I think with the days that she's been there, maybe she struck up a relationship with someone working in the hotel.
Yes.
And it's just that to get to the place that she had to get to, you would have to know the layout of the hotel. You'd have to know
definitely
where it goes to. Otherwise, there's so many... I don't want to say easier, but there's so many easier ways to die when you're on a roof of a hotel.
Yeah.
Rather than end up in a water tank. You can, especially if you're high on drugs, or if you're in a psychosis state, you'd wander off the edge. You wouldn't knowingly go, I have to go there.
And squeeze in through this tiny little hole in this 10-foot tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long stretch.
Yeah. I think as well, what is interesting is the way that quote from the police at the beginning there, they searched the hotel to the legal extent. For me, that was warning flags, red flags there,
of course,
on that one, because I don't think when they first searched the hotel that she was already in the tank.
Yeah.
I think she may have been murdered in the actual hotel, in someone's room. Then the person that did it wasn't aware that she was supposed to check in every day, and basically got panicked into disposing her body in the closest possible circumstances, the closest possible place that they could, and then went back on shift and deleted videos or anything, or edited the videos, or didn't want to sully the reputation of the hotel and said, "This has happened. What can we do about it?"
Yeah. For the police to say as much as they're legally able to search, this is a missing person, which could potentially be a homicide. You would think they would have every right, legally or otherwise, to investigate every single room, because there's no proof that it isn't a homicide.
Yeah, and I think they've said that to prove that there has been resistance.
Yeah.
That they weren't allowed to search every single room, because the way it's worded is just so they've gone, we've done what we can do, but the people in the hotel haven't helped us. I think it's very calculated way to say it, but they've not actually come out and said, them dickheads at the hotel, they've not helped us out at all.
Yeah.
And it's just such a tragedy.
It is.
And I hope, I mean, the only way where the family is going to get closure on this, if more information from the hotel is forthcoming. I think everyone who was involved from the police side have done what they can. I just think it's the hotel staff and the hotel people that are actually not being forthright with what they should be.
Yeah, the case needs to be reopened. There's no closure. It's not a form of closure.
No. And especially with the autopsy being changed.
Being scribbled out, exactly. I would have demanded the case be reopened.
I mean, they did try and sue Elisa's family. They tried and sue the hotel, but unfortunately it was thrown out because she died in an area where customers don't have access to.
So they say.
Yeah. So that was the reason. But then, but that's the reason that it's accidental drowning. If it was still undetermined, maybe they would have had a case with it.
But that's the thing. The hotel is saying that customers don't have any access to this area. Well, clearly the proof is staring you right in the face that they do.
Yeah. How would she? Yeah.
She didn't teleport there.
No, it's just, and the lack of video evidence. The only video that they've put out to the people is the one where it makes her look that she's having some kind of psychosis episode, some kind of breakdown. So it's putting the onus on her rather than on the hotel. So they're just kind of going, there you go, look, everyone can see. She's crazy, not us.
I don't believe that at all.
No. I do hope one day the family will get justice and will get closure. Definitely. And obviously us talking about it isn't going to do anything. But, you know, I think this is a tragic set of circumstances which needs to be investigated.
It might make people who think that the case was just open and shut kind of give it a second thought.
Yeah.
Bring awareness to how it does need to be reopened. It does need to be reinvestigated.
Exactly. Not everything is black and white. Just because someone has psychological issues, that isn't necessarily their own downfall. Just because you can frame it in a way where it looks like they're the ones that are not bringing this on themselves, but they're the ones that have that with the video where they're trying to show that she's crazy. Maybe it's not
too easy to pin the blame on mental health.
Exactly, it's not as black and white on that. It may walk like a duck, quack like a duck, swim like a duck, but it's not always a duck. You need to have a little bit of a look, and it's just a tragedy that this family lost this young girl.
Yeah,
and our thoughts go out to him.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that was the case of Elisa Lam. May she rest in peace.
Yep.
And that has been us from the MO podcast. So I have been Consummation San.
And I have been Atreya. Please let us know what you think and what your theories are.
Yeah, please, in the comments, we'll whack up on YouTube and we'll answer them. And if I am being an idiot with my autopsy reports and being simplistic, please let me know, because I just thought it was interesting. And then when I got hold of that brown fluid, I was like, oh, I might have something here. And I'll probably get told, no, don't even try and ever do that again.
We're only doctors in that we're good at the Operation board game. Sometimes. That little red nose
Speak for yourself, yeah.
bleeps. Oh, well, I mean, I'm better when I'm drunk, but...
I just pick it up and turn it upside down and shake it.
Well, that's not going to work. The pieces are specifically designed so they don't just wiggle their way out. I don't think you've played Operation. I think you're lying.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway.
Isn't that one the one with the donkey?
No, that's Buckaroo.
Oh, damn. Okay. Then no, I haven't. Anyway. Yeah, on that bombshell. Thank you all so much for joining us. We shall see you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.
The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast.